One and all, welcome back to Illustrated by DeForrest, where I'm going to do part 3 of my How to Draw an Eye series. So, part 1 is figuring out how to sketch. Part 2 is shading, just like this, and doing some basic color. For this episode, we're going to bring it all together and make a fully rendered, beautiful looking, in full color eye here. We got the fully rendered achromatic eye, shaded, pretty realistic looking. Let's turn off some of these layers that went into creating this. So here's a flat color version where I just put some colors behind a sketch, also demonstrating how hue and saturation work in tandem to make something that looks incredible. And the first episode was pretty much our basic sketch right here. So for this lesson, how about we just bring it all together by starting with a very basic eye sketch here. And we're going to bring back my gray background. So I guess now's a good time to finally go into my long-winded explanation about how I use the gray background right here. The human eye is designed more for darkness than for light. And that's a whole evolutionary theory, actually. So when life got started on this planet, this is an art show, so please bear with me. Pretty much when life began on this planet, it all swam in the ocean. And what's down in the ocean? Not the sun. So eyes were more used to darkness than they were light. And that's been kind of a thing where the eye is not going to go backwards. We were stuck with being able to discern darkness, shades of it, way more than light. And that's what I'm doing right here. So I'm starting with a mid-gray here on the background because our eyes are going to be able to better tell all of these shades than they would anything up in here. Alright? Even just me going across, you can try this at home. I'm using Adobe Fresco for this demonstration. Not sponsored, but hey. So if I go back and forth like here, you can definitely see more shades than if you're going back and forth right here. Maybe I see like I can discern 2 or 3 different ones. And this way, I'm going to have a midpoint, maybe right about here. And like I said in the last episode, I'm going to keep anything that's going to represent white to be about 70. I'll keep that consistent right here. So a brightness of 70 is going to represent white here. Everything else I'll reserve for something that's going to be even brighter for light effects. So my halfway point there is going to be 35, and everything below that we'll be able to see a lot better. Alright, so we have our sketch, but like I said, we're going to make something realistic here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pick out some colors that are pretty much in the range of what I need here. Pretty highly saturated, dark skin. We're going to stay within the orange hues here. Go ahead and fill that in. So yeah, like I said, we're still within that dark hue. Now looking at this, I really do like how this color looks, but it's too early for this. So I need to turn down the saturation. We'll add more as we go along. Alright, so I'm going to fill that in. And I think I'm actually going to turn this down just a little bit more. Because as you can even see like down here, like one color is going to pop way more than the other as I add it in. I'm going to darken it. I think that's good right there. Now I'm going to go ahead and create another layer. Let me actually move this layer up, if it will let me. Creating a new layer. And I'm just going to do bit by adding layers of the sclera next. All the way down. And the sclera is going to be represented by... Now, I keep saying sclera. I'm not saying what that is. Sclera is the white of the eye. Yeah, 68 is fine enough. Now... let me check what brush I'm on. We're going to use the hard round and go about right here. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do is the iris. And since I've already used blue in the previous demonstration and I'm going to use shades of red for the skin, I'm going to make the iris green. So let's take it here. We're going to turn its brightness down, keep its saturation down. And that's pretty decent there. Now we're going to fill in that iris. Sorry if you can't see it very well on your screen, but don't worry, we'll pick it back up. Next, I'm just going to turn this down to make the pupil just enough so it's dark enough to where I can actually see that center dot. Alright, so we got our iris, pupil, and sclera filled in. This is our basic shape right here. Actually, I think I'll go ahead and add the tear duct. Going to go into kind of a red pinkish shade right there. Just fill that in as well. Actually, let me take a step back. I'm just gonna put the tear duct on a separate layer. Once again, this is a right eye since the main tear duct is going to be over here, close to the nose. You can see how it's bigger right there. Alright, so right here you have a few choices. I can merge everything together and start smudging it, or I can actually start filling in some shades just to discern what's going to be where. And I think I'll go ahead and do that part just so I can get a good grip on how everything's going to look. Since I have a touchscreen, I'm using that as my eyedropper. Now here's where I'm going to mess with brightness and saturation a bit. Just going to bring it up some. Start there. Now we're going to use the soft round opacity. Let's see how that looks. Let's use a bigger brush than that. Not sure why it's not showing the preview the way I want it to, at least with the cursor, but it's okay, we can work that out. So once again, the eye is a dome, so I'm going to go in with these lighter shades right here. Don't worry about going over the pupil, because we have to go over that again anyway. So we're just going to start there, add in. Now I'm going to slightly turn brightness up, turn saturation up. Actually, I'm going to turn up a little bit more because I just want to go ahead and get into this, you know what I mean? Alright, so that's in. Let's make this a little more even. And let's see, I think I'm actually going to take that previous shade of green. Let me see. Yep, there we go. We're going to go around on the outside a little bit more. There we go. So I really do want to demonstrate hue again as far as like how I can use that to my advantage when saturation runs out. Alright, so we're going in right here. I feel like we've got a pretty good 3D shape already forming. Let's turn the brightness up, turn that saturation up. There we go. I'm gonna make my brush smaller. Let's go around. Whoops. Okay, gotta make that smaller. I don't know what's going on there. About right there is fine. Now I'm gonna go around that border, the outskirts of the eye. Actually, I need to turn this up a little bit because I'm going to, let's see, there we go. That's much better. Like I said, I really do want to get that demonstration of hue as well. And I really want these eyes to just shine. Let's put it that way. Alright, just going to go a little bit outside. That's fine. Alright, going to turn saturation all the way up, turn brightness just about right there. And I'm just going to do certain small parts of the eye at this point for that. Let's turn the size of the brush down. Just going to go around on the outskirts on that border again. There we go. And let's see, a little bit just about right there. Try and get a little bit more into that pupil. Alright, so now I'm going to move into the hue and bring it a little bit closer to yellow from there. And I'm going to, sticking with soft round opacity, I'm going to turn the sides down. I'm going to color certain parts of this in at this point. Pretty much that border again. Don't worry about this being a perfect circle because I'm just going to go over and mess around with some more stuff anyway. Alright, now I feel like at this point this is where I should start blurring, or at least blending. Let's see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my mixers right here. Let's see. Yeah, detailer mixer is what I use. Now, let's see, I'm going to turn it down about right there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use this transparency right here. Now, let's see what we got when we do this. Yep, that's pretty good. Well, it's okay, but we're going to go over it anyway again with those lighter shades. Now I really want to add texture at this point. Let's see, I need to turn, let me turn the flow down. It's like the higher that flow, the more it's going to just pull everything. Let's see, about 7, is that what I need? Yeah, I think that's It's gonna take a minute, but I think that's pretty good for as far as texture goes. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start by giving myself some guides here. Going up and down right there. Going diagonal, because what I'm trying to do is draw a straight line from the center of the pupil to the edge of the iris right there. And if I'm just zigzagging like this, like mindlessly, I can really throw my direction off. You can see that same thing happen in the second episode as well. Alright, so now that I have my guides, I'm going to go along the eye like this. Just going to keep going. Like I can still keep up with it, make sure that the direction is in its right direction, I guess, because I'm using those guides as I go along. If I did this mindlessly, I'm pretty sure I would just drift. There we go, pretty good. Keep going. Alright, so that's a pretty good first pass. Let's zoom out, see what we got. Yep, I think we're getting there. Still have a lot of work to do. Alright, we're going to do one more pass, just here and there. I also like how this color is blending into that really dark desaturated green right there. Let me just add a little bit there. Alright, so pretty good at the moment. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to that really lime green that I had. I'm just going to move it to yellow at this point. Let's see. Turn flow back up now. We're going to go into, we're going to use the soft round opacity again. And I'm just going to add back some of that yellow. There we go. Pretty much right here. It's a pretty realistic depiction. I'm going to just do a little artistic license here. I'm just going to add in a few random streaks here and there. Another thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a little bit on the outside. Just a little. A few touches. Zoom out. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, it looks freaky. Reminds me of a Rick and Morty portal right now. Make sure I'm still on soft round opacity. Turn this down. Going around and just bring that pupil shape back. Okay, so we got our solid pupil right here. I'm going to bring this back to that dark green actually. I'm just going to do a little bit of playing around here where I'm going to turn the size of that up. And just add just a little bit of a glow inside that pupil. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to that yellow, and I can't really move it any further from there, so now it's the point where I'm going to turn the brightness all the way up, and what I'm going to do is just add a shine right here, add another one right here. So the reason why I'm pretty much putting everything in the upper half of the eye right here is when you think of lights that reflect on the eye, typically they're above you. When you think of the sun, you think of ceiling lights. You can also do little creative things like adding in, you can just add in like basic shapes, or even if there's like a window nearby, what you can do is, let's see, I think I can demonstrate that right quick. I'll just put on a second layer. I'm going to turn this all the way to white. Like I said, don't keep that in your back pocket until you have everything down. Yeah, let's stick with soft round opacity. I'm just going to use a really tight airbrush. So say that you're near a window. One thing you can do is, well, first I'm just going to zoom out, because why not zoom out? Zoom in. Jeez, I've been at work all day. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to zoom in and actually draw the shape of that window. Not gonna be the most perfect looking one, but hey. Once again, I'm doing this on a separate layer because I'm definitely not going to keep this. Alright, once I've drawn that shape, next thing we're going to do is turn that up and really make it look like light is coming in from that window. Also hide some of your worst looking jagged lines when I'm drawing that shape right there. Alright, so I got this. Now, this is just a bit of a preview. I know this looks jank as none other, but hey, you can kind of see how. Let's actually zoom out. you can see how that eye is actually going to shine through right there. Alright, now let's keep working, make this look a lot better than whatever this nonsense is I have going. Actually, I feel like from here, this is where I can start erasing a few things and keeping others. So, as you saw in that thing right here where I took the line art away, like of course the pupil and the iris look a lot better without that outline, but I still want to keep that outline at least for the eyelashes and stuff like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to erase what I don't need here. Then I'll straighten up those lines as I go. So I'm just erasing what's on that line art layer. I'm going to keep that center for now. I can get rid of the border between the eye and the tear duct. Now, let me just straighten out that outline of that eye. Let's see, yeah, still on a separate layer there. Okay, I'm going to use the hard round brush. And I'm not worried about the fact I'm going outside the line so much right now. Just gonna go around. And once again, natural curvature of how I draw. Alright, let me give you guys a white background. So pay attention to the tip of the pencil here as I go up and down. You can see that curve right there. Make sure you use that as you're drawing as well. I'm going to do that by straightening out the way this iris looks. Now I'm just going to turn that around and do the same on the other side. Okay, not perfect, but it'll do. Now I'm going to just realign this. There we go. And just going to get rid of what I don't need from the whites of the eye. Alright, so we have our iris, we have our pupil, and let me see, I think I'm just going to straighten it up a little bit more, looking at how jagged that pupil looks. Got rid of the line, but I need, let's see, I'm actually going to go for that inner glow green right there. So we got rid of the line art, but I just need to straighten that out a little bit more. Alright, so I'm going to go along, actually, let me take a smaller airbrush, about 11, let's see. Yeah, that's much better. Once again, natural curvature of how I draw. Even if some lines look a little too straight right there, I think it's fine. Well, I think I can do better. There we go. And when we're about going to that shine too much, because I can just go over it again. But let me actually just pull back a little bit on it. About, yeah, we'll go right there. Then I'll just straighten that part out. Alright, let's see what we got. Okay, yeah, I'm liking that a lot more. We're gonna come in. Sorry, I'm trying not to let perfect be the enemy of good here, but that straight line right there is driving me a bit nuts. Alright, so we got a little bit more of a rounded pupil right there. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to work on the sclera now. So what we need to do is represent that sclera as actually being, this whole thing as being an actual ball that's sitting in the middle of your skull. So what we're going to do, we're going to take that, make sure it's on airbrush mode. I'm going to turn it up a bit. And just to be safe, I'm going to put this on a separate layer. And let's see how that looks. Nope, let's make that a little bit bigger. There we go. I guess we do need to put on black. Let's see here. Sometimes I just mix that in, sometimes I don't. So it's just all about, kind of about personal preference, however I'm feeling on the day, I guess. Alright, so we're getting a more of a 3D eye, but I'm going to do that again because I want to have the top part be much more darker and much more of a larger shadow than the bottom. Because, let's see, there we go. Because you have your eyebrow right here that's blocking sunlight, pretty much the dome of the eye and the edge of the eye, I guess. The edge of the sphere, think about it like that. Like as far as that, so your eye is also going to cast a shadow upon itself by doing that. And you want to make that a lot smaller, so I'm just going to kind of go about the edges right here. And that's pretty good. Alright, so now we have an eye with shadow in it, which I think looks really good here. Let's add a little bit more shine though. I'm going to take some white And turn this down. I'm gonna put this inside the previous shine we did. You see that, and you see that. We're gonna add a few smaller dots. Let's turn this down. Maybe it could be ambient light that's in. You know what? I'm actually gonna make those yellow. Like I really do like how this looks like a sunburst in the middle of this eye. So we're gonna take the yellow from before, make some mini bursts here and there. You can even do that kind of outside. Spread those around. We're gonna put one in the middle of the eye there, and one right there. There we go. We're gonna take the white right there. Now we're gonna turn the brush size down and put that into a few of these. And I think at this point we don't really need that outline, at least that little center right there. So I'm gonna erase that. All right, so yeah, let's zoom out, see what we got. It's looking like an eye that is looking at you with a lot of energy inside of it. I don't know if it's bothering you as much as me, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this up a bit. And I'm going to just add a little more shine down here and put just a little bit of white into it as well. We're going to turn it down about there. I think that's pretty good. Alright, so we have our texture of that iris, we have our shine in it. This really looks like, yeah, like I think the Rick and Morty portal similarity is like really showing here, because I really feel like the iris, like you can, like I feel like you can really dive into that pupil right there, and at the same time these lights are shooting out of it. So I really like how this came out. Now, next thing we need to do is work on everything else. So why not? Alright, so we have our tear duct. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up some of that. Let's see, just going to turn up the brightness on it. Let's stick with, yeah, we're going to stick with soft round opacity. As you can see, just a lot of airbrushing. And if I need some tire lines, just going to make that brush smaller. Alright. I'm just kind of tapping into that a little bit. Let's see. Just gonna tap in there some. Now I'm gonna turn the brightness up. Turn the airbrush down. Really make some of this look just gooey, I guess best way I can say it. That does not look good. Okay, let me think this through. Wow, I don't usually struggle on this. Okay, let me think about this. I think I'm just gonna start over here. Why does that look so dark? That looks a lot darker. Am I just not pressing? Oh, hold on. Am I in the right layer? Oh, I see. I see what my problem is. It's this layer, this shading layer. I'm like, why is that not coming across at all the way I need it to? Alright, so let me erase this shading layer. Yeah, I'm not gonna shy away from my own mistakes, okay? It's like I want to be realistic about art, so I need to be realistic when I mess up as well. Yeah, there we go. That looks fleshy and everything else, and shiny. Much better. You're probably thinking like, nah, go back to that other thing. This looks nasty. But hey, here's where we're at. It does look a little bit too bright now, so I guess we are going to put a little bit of that shading back, but now we're going to have control over it. Now we are near there. It's going to go in. Now I feel like it's too big of an airbrush. Don't worry, I'll nail it at one point. Alright, going to do this the way I should have done it from the beginning. I'm going to take some of that dark edge of that tear duct and just airbrush that on top of it. Let's turn that down. There we go. A little more right there. Way better. Well, that's a little bit too much, but about tap right there. There we go. Now I think this is the point where I can actually just go ahead and merge some layers together. So what I'm going to do is, let's see here. Did I put that shine on a separate layer? Yep, I did. I put it on the line art layer. Fortunately, that's okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rearrange some stuff here. Go ahead and merge this layer down. Alright, actually, you know what? That's a mistake all by itself right there. So if you have multiple layers, use them. I'm going to duplicate this and duplicate this. So I got my backup layers. I'm going to place those below the skin layer. So now I got my layers, and I'm going to go ahead and merge everything down. And if I make too many mistakes here, I can just always go back and do more. Alright, let's finish this up. We pretty much have our eye here. What we need is the skin around it. So let me select that. And actually, I'm going to select it this way. And let's see where we're at right here. So we got brightness and saturation pretty low, as we need it to be. And I'm just going to go ahead and turn this up bit by bit. And one other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this layer so I have a backup. First thing we're going to do is we're going to work on the upper eyelid. I'm just going to spray some of that in. Let's make it a little bit bigger. There we go. We're going to go back across. About there. Should be good. Yeah, I'm also going to be picking up that base background color if I feel like I've done too much, like right here. I'm going to adjust that in a second. Let's go across on the bottom eyelid. You can tell that I'm not doing as much. Well, maybe you can and can't. Like, depends on your video quality. I'm not doing as much on the lower eyelid because it's not going to be as prominent. We're going to go across one more time. Now let's pick the background color up. And I'm just going to go across to erase what I don't need. And once again, this is going to be a right eye, so this area is actually going to be a lot brighter. Let me go ahead and pick that color back up, and I'm just going to go across like about... Yeah, I guess that's good, but I feel like the airbrush can be a little bit bigger. About there is good. Alright. Alright. Now, if you remember from the last video, this is where I kind of went crazy and started drawing the nose and everything else. I'm going to try to hold off on that for right now. I'll definitely get to that, but for right here, let's just draw what we do need. And I'm just going to come across with this upper eyelid, getting more into that eyebrow area. Let's make this airbrush a lot bigger. I'm going to come across right there and kind of do the same down here at the bottom as well. Just to really make it prominent that we have a eye that's in the middle of somebody's head. And it also has some flappy skin around it. We're going to come across on that lower eyelid. Like I said, I'm not going to make it as prominent. Now, just going to add a little bit more right there. Okay. Now, as far as this side of the eye right here, I'm going to try to add to where, well, I'm kind of shaping for what I need to draw right here. Just add some more wrinkles, pretty much. Alright. Now, I'm going to put a little bit more of that face in. And I'm just going to go up into the eyebrow. I'm not going to make this eye like a mean eye or anything like that. I'm going to try to keep it fairly relaxed. And to do that, I'm just going to go across, just so you can probably see a little bit of that been going down into a little bit, but I'm not going to go for all that. Alright. Now, like I said, since this is a right eye, I'm going to go ahead and put in a good amount of that nose right there. Just going to go down. I feel like in the last episode, that nose was a little bit too far high up on the face. Let's see. So yeah, this actually going to go down a lot further, make that a little more realistic. Okay. At the same time, I'm going to leave a little bit for cheekbones. in that groove of where the nose will meet. There we go. I think that's pretty good. Just gonna go across. Haven't decided like how old the person is in this picture, and I'm not gonna worry about that too much, because of course that's just gonna mean more wrinkles and other things. I feel like one thing I need to do is try to watch my contrast, because so I was looking over a bunch of my old artwork, and while I still like it, I feel like I go a little heavy on the contrast, and it kind of works again. I feel like it's working a little bit against me as far as realism goes. Let's add a little bit right there. I'm just doing some really soft airbrushing, and I'm going to keep it about right there just to really... It's like, of course I could fill all the rest of this in, but I feel like to really shape a face, I'm going to go in a little... Let me pick up some base color. Let's see. I'm just going to try to frame it right there to make it look like the edge of the face, like right here. You kind of see that actually right here. I'm looking at my OBS right now, but you can kind of see that line kind of come in right here. And actually, taking a look at that, I'm going to do something that's a little bit opposite, as far as me drawing. I'm going to do something that's a little bit opposite of probably what I look like in the camera. You can see that the space below, next to my eyes, are dark, but typically when you look at other artwork, it's going to be a lot lighter. So let me take this, I'm going to turn that up, going to turn up that saturation. Let's see, let me actually see how that looks. Actually, I'm going to turn that up a little bit more. That's pretty good right there. Let's turn down the size of that airbrush. There we go. Even that, I feel like that's a little too big. Turn it down more. Yep. I'll do that. Now I feel like that's too small. It's like I need a very light tap on that, so I'm going to turn this about right there. I'm going to very lightly go into this. There we go. Even I feel like that's a bit much. Let's see if I can pull back on here. It's like I need it this big. Like I need like what is it? Pretty much like that very faint glow of that is what I really need there. If I go too far, yeah, it's a little tough. Let's see. There we go. Getting closer that way. All right. Grab that run down. All right. Now, let's get that thing out the way. That's for if you're doing this on a actual tablet, like an iPad or something like that. I'm drawing on a Wacom bamboo tablet from the year 2012. You know what? I'm going to put a picture of myself up there right now for when I bought it. Yeah. That's how long that's been in my life. That is old faithful to me. By the way, I just turned 40. So is that alleged I looked 40 even back then? Anyway, let's see. I'm going to turn this up a bit and do a very faint going across that. Now I want to try to get into that edge of that shadow up there. Let's go down here and fill that in. Okay, it's showing up. You can see how much testing I did beforehand. Alright, so I'm going to turn this down. Let's go pretty much down about right there and try to fade out. Same over here. Now you notice I'm really not going too far past the iris right here. I'm doing that just to really drive home the 3D effect. Edge right there, right there. One thing I'm going to do next is I'm going to turn this down pretty low. I'm just going to go along the edge of the eyelid right there. I should really start from edge to edge. Let's see about... Okay, I'm going against the natural curvature of how I draw. There we go. Let's see if I can do this in one take. Okay, maybe not one take, but it's okay. How's that looking? Kinda wish this thing had a history brush, because I could just erase what I don't need on that. Well, maybe it does have a history brush, and I just don't know. There we go. Doesn't look like too much difference, but it's alright. Okay, let's go across on the other end. There we go. Now, a lot of that's probably about to be covered up because I still need to go across with some eyelashes. Let's see, let me add a little more there. Okay. Alright, so now we got that going. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and darken that edge I was telling you about earlier. Let's go across down here. Let's see. Yeah, I think an airbrush about that size will do. And what I'm going to do is... Actually, I'm going to need it to be smaller. So I'm looking at that. We're going to try to get into this. I'm not actually tapping just yet. Now I am. Just doing a little bit of going in right there. Yeah, that's fine. Like you see, I went off a little bit right there, but it actually kind of helps. I feel like with realism. I'm going to try to do the same on the other side. Now, I think I actually liked it the way it was right there, so that's looking pretty good. Now, it's going to be even tighter over here. Alright. And just so you know, I'm not too worried about how this looks kind of crooked right here, because I'm just going to go over it anyway. I'm going to add just a little bit of more wrinkle, maybe about right here. Let me actually just run a bit of a test, because I feel like just this area is almost begging to have a little bit more of a fold into it. Let's see how that looks. I like that. I'm going to keep that. I'm going to do a little bit of the same on here as well. Let's turn that down a little. Oh, one thing I forgot to do. I need to come across over here. Just add a little bit of wrinkle there as well. Alright, so let's lighten some more areas up. Let's see. Now here's where that saturation really comes in handy. Let's make the airbrush a little bigger because I'm just going to kind of broad stroke a lot of this. There we go. And kind of the same up here to really bring in that idea of that eyebrow. Let's see, about right here. It's good. Same as right there. Let's turn that, and let's add a little bit of, I'd say, fleshiness right there for that wrinkle. Now the same thing up here for that eyebrow area. We're gonna go in some. All right. Turn that up a bit, and there we go. Lighten that area up a little more. I think we got looking pretty decent here. Let's try to make them a lot less tired than I look right now. There we go. And right there. Okay. Now to really bring us all in, let's bring in that nose. Actually, I'm just gonna, let me just adjust this right quick. Let's take that. I just want that nose. Well, that nose does look realistic. Just the way it looks so straight is just bothering me. So just bear with me for a second. There we go. Alright, so next thing I'm going to do is make it even brighter. Let's take that. Make that even brighter. I think that's good right there. And it's going to be for some, just for a few highlights here and there. Brighten that up a bit. Especially this nose. And a little bit up here as well. Just really brighten that up. I think that's good there. Like I said, I feel like I need to kind of pull back on my contrast. Alright, now let's turn this up. And I'm going to turn this down a bit. And that's only going to be just so I can do this down here. Alright. There we go. As you can see, let's see if I can just turn this layer off and this layer off. That's pretty much our skin right there. I think the last thing we need to do is a few eyelashes. So just made a new layer, and this is going to be just for the eyelashes. We're going to turn, actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up the skin layer. And I'm just going to turn the brightness down on it. We're going to keep the saturation as it is. Brightness is just down to 8. So pretty much just an off black, really, really dark brown. So I'm going to start by using the pencil here. Let's see. Let's tilt this this way actually. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to fix that kind of straight line that we have right here. I'm just going to make these some really thick eyelashes, top and bottom. Alright, let's see how that's going to come across. There we go. So we're getting rid of that, and then we're going to fill this in. Let's go across right here. The pencil up a bit. And try to go across and fill that in. Now we're going to go right there. We're going to fill in that top portion. Alright, so pretty much that thickness pretty much gives the illusion of eyelashes, so there's really not too much you need to do. Like, I know it kind of looks like eyeliner, but you know. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the brush back down. Let's put it about, I'll put it at 9, I guess. Now, most important thing you do with hair when you're drawing it is you want to draw from root to tip, alright? Root to end. So I'm just going to keep going across this way. So now our subject is definitely more feminine than before. A bit rounded in the crescent right there. And one thing you can do to make sure that this stays, I would say that it stays kind of the same directions. Maybe just draw a few out and use those as your guides. Because if you just keep going in one certain direction, it'll start looking a little unrealistic. What you want to do is eventually fan them out. So it's going in that direction. This one, that can be a little more straight, I guess. There we go. Alright, so now we got our guides there. You can make them as long or as short as you need them. Just go across. And I apologize if I go silent, but I do want you guys to actually see this all the way through while I concentrate. You can kind of see that I'm already kind of going off kilter despite the guide, which is okay. Hair, it's hair. It doesn't always play by your rules. Let's turn that. It's like a little bit of a flick of the wrist, so the natural curvature of how you draw kind of doesn't apply too much here, unless you just want to turn it this way and kind of draw like that. But me personally, I feel like the flick, like doing this direction, is a little more feasible, even if you're kind of going the exact opposite. So this is where you can kind of break that rule. We're gonna flick that way. Yeah, I know it's like, why am I doing this if I'm going against my own guides? I know. Now, pretty much all I have to do right there is just layer it, just like I did with all these right here. There we go. Alright, and up. Up. A little more. We're gonna make these a little shorter in comparison to the rest. And there we go. It's looking pretty good. Now, next thing we're gonna do, let's just do a little bit right here as well. We're gonna make these a lot shorter. Actually, you could kind of just do guides, and that could be it, honestly, with the lower eyelashes. Let's just really need them to be thick. So we're gonna go across maybe just one more time. Honestly, I think that's pretty good as far as our eyelashes go. Now, next thing we're gonna do is I'm just gonna make one more layer. Do as many of these layers as you need to. It's like I'm sure there are several challenges out there where it's like, oh, just draw everything on just one layer if you can. That's up to you. But next thing we're gonna do is just draw some eyebrows. And I'm just gonna start by just doing a very light outline of where they're gonna be. That's good. Let's see. Okay, yeah, I'll just do it that way. What I'm gonna do is, and it's gonna be pretty basic, I'm just gonna make some kind of bushy eyebrows. Once again, from the root to the end, so I go all the way across. And the cool thing about this is that your eyebrows can just be straight up layering. It's looking pretty good so far. But I want these to be a lot thicker, so I'm gonna turn this up. 16. And even if I start with this stick pencil, like I can always just go back over it and put in those finer lines, which is what I'm going to do in just a second, because this really does look like it's kind of sketched on relatively. But it's fine, all we're doing is just adding some volume to these hairs. How's that looking? Alright, pretty good. I'm going to thicken that up right up top. More. I'm actually going to come in a little bit just so it feels like those eyelashes are kind of pulled back a bit, a little less bushy. Let's round this top part up right here. We're going to take some fine hairs now. We're going to 5. Let's go, just going along this bottom edge, just get those really fine roots down there. Don't worry about it being perfect. You can see that I'm leaving out some roots right there. Let's add a few more fine hairs right here, because I don't know about you, but I typically do that. So these hairs would start about right there. Those fine looking hairs. Let's zoom out, see what we're looking at. That is looking really good, really realistic. One thing I'm going to do, and I'm not going to do too much because I feel like we're at a good stopping point. Yeah, it worked so well in the last episode, but hey, just gonna do a little bit of airbrushing. Yeah, I really am trying to keep my contrast in check here. Let's see, I'm on the airbrush, yep, okay. I'm just gonna come through right here and try to round this up. Like pretty much this curvature from that inner eyelid going down. I'm gonna try to just even that up a little bit. So let's take a little bit of the brush here. There we go. All right. Now, as far as I don't think we really need to add any shading or shadow to those eyelashes. I think we're at a pretty good stopping point here. I don't think I really need to add any more shading or shadow to it, but I'm going to do one thing though. I'm just going to turn this up a bit right here and go back to our pencil. Let's turn that up a little, and I'm just going to add a little bit of some light shading in that. May not even come across well on video, but I'm just going to keep turning it up a little bit just to add in a little bit of shading there. Let's turn it up a little more. Alright. So So now we have some thick eyebrows that also have their own 3D effect. I'd say this looks pretty realistic, maybe not perfect, but let's not let perfect be the enemy of good, okay? Hope y'all took something away from this. Hope y'all learned a lot. Also, please subscribe to the channel to get more. New episodes debut on the 3rd of every month. Alright, so until next time, move the media. Peace.